up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Talking Elite Fitness. I'm Sean Woodland, joined as always by Lauren Khalil. Lauren, how are you?
Sunny in Syracuse, 70 degrees today, guys. I had my windows open, the fans on in the house. It was lovely.
Dang.
Nice.
And featuring Tommy Marquez. Tommy, what's up?
Good. Recovering slowly.
Yeah, you had quite the weekend.
I did.
Bachelor party?
Yeah, I don't know what it is about my friends from home scheduling bachelor parties during weeks of the CrossFit Open.
Yeah, this is not the first time this has happened to you.
You were on a cruise ship during one.
I was on a cruise ship and I had to get off during one of our landfalls to sneak in over to the fine folks at CrossFit Invictus to get the workout in. This time just did it when I got home, but yeah.
Nice. Well, where were you for this?
I was in Scottsdale.
Arizona.
To spring training.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, season just started. Right? Started over in Japan. My Dodgers swept the Cubs. Shohei Ohtani. There we go. Yeah, we had so Lauren, speaking of your weather, we had like a Freaky Friday last week where we just swapped weather. I got snow.
Yeah.
I left the house super early because I went to the 5 a.m. class. So I left the house at 4:30 a.m. and it was just raining. And then the dad's group that I work out with, we go grab coffee after working out. And we're at coffee and my wife texts me and she says, "Do you have your work clothes with you?" I was like, "No, why?" She goes, "It's snowing here. I'm not sure you're going to be able to get back up." I'm like, "Well, what happened?" Like when I left, it was just raining. Sure enough, when I got back up home, there's like an inch of snow on the ground. It's stuck. My son runs out at 7 a.m. in his pajamas and boots and he's building a snowman. He's like sledding. It was gone by the afternoon. It was great. Just melted. But I texted Lauren. I said, "Lauren, come get your weather. It's drunk."
I know. I thought that you somehow virtually took a picture of my backyard, but no, it was you.
Full on snow. Well, anyway, it's been a busy week. Yeah, every time I think we're going to have, what are we going to talk about? It's going to be a slow week. Things happen. We're going to talk about the end of the Open. We're going to talk about the latest with the World Fitness Project, and we will spend most of the show talking about the latest developments in the potential and I guess now impending sale of CrossFit. And I was able to speak with our good friend Chris Cooper from Two Brain Business. Some of you may have seen the comment that he made on CrossFit's post about it being for sale. It was very detailed. He laid out a bunch of stuff in there. Chris is a super smart guy. I've been able to work with him in the past, not only at CrossFit, but also with some stuff on at Two Brain Business. And it was great talking to him. He had a lot of good insights. So we will bring you that interview as well. But before we do that, just a quick shout out to our sponsor for today, and that is Thirdzy. Thirdzy is, speaking as a master's athlete, is ideal for someone like me who's not only looking to optimize sleep, but also optimize recovery. And I found a new way to Thirdzy so I made a smoothie with my Thirdzy. I put cup of blueberries, cup of almond milk, scoop of Thirdzy. Delicious. Delicious.
Oh, nighttime smoothie.
Oh my God.
Great. I did it. Yeah. Cause I worked out, had a little post-workout smoothie. It was fantastic. And Thirdzy is melatonin free. Cause look, melatonin does not improve your sleep quality and can leave you groggy. Thirdzy is a full stack recovery solution containing natural ingredients that help relax your mind and body for sleep. It has 10 grams of collagen to help rebuild your body overnight as well. And again, if you're a master's athlete, get on this stuff because it works. You can go to thirdzy.com/TEF and you will save 20% right off the bat on their rest and recovery collagen. So big thanks to Thirdzy. Let's talk about the Open. The Open is in the books. Congratulations to Colton Mertens.
Needed the Thirdzy after that.
Oh, yeah. Colton Mertens.
I was going to say, you stole my thunder, Sean. I had a new way to Thirdzy too, but yours was way cooler.
Oh, was it? Okay. It's dry scooping it?
No, I instead of a tahini rim on my michelada.
Oh my God, that's nice.
I dipped it in Thirdzy powder.
That's pretty good. But anyway, the Open is done. Congratulations to Colton Mertens and Miriam Van Roer, who won their respective divisions. Look, I thought the announcements were great. They knocked them all out of the park. This last one was a lot of fun. We were talking before we came on here about having our good friend Travis Bajan, who, for those of you who don't know, he was like the main floor announcer at the CrossFit Games for, I want to say, like the first couple of years I was there. So 2012 for sure, 2013, 2011 I know he was there because I was there as a fan. And I think, did he do 2014? I think that's when we started having like more floor announcers.
Yeah. But
if he has the microphone, know it's going to be a good time. Get your popcorn. Yeah. I hope that they give him some kind of job at the games because I was thoroughly entertained by that man.
He is the only man in CrossFit Games history to floor announce the final events while also arm wrestling at least 10 people in the same competition.
Yeah, he was that guy. Was a rare.
It's like Abby Gilmore. Most penalty minutes and only got to take his skate off and try to stab somebody.
I just remember the way he'd be like, the Marine, Patrick Burke. And he would like now announce everybody as they're coming around the track. Remember the track triplet? He was, put some weight on, Froning. Like he'd yell at people and he was great. Like he was a presence out there on the floor. And all those, I think the floor announcers are some of the most talented people that we have, I've worked with on the media team. Especially when there's two of them, they're at opposite ends of the floor and they're going back and forth. I've done like kind of PA floor announcing, and I'll put that in quotes for like a local competition. I did it for Barbells for Bullies. It's hard. It is tough. And
it's tough.
Oh man. And if people who do it well, do it really well. And we've been around, like we've had a great group like Joshy G and Kiki and Larry and Mike and Dylan was once one. I know I'm missing a few out there. Logan, she was like all of them. Fantastic. Oh, yeah. But Travis, like, really, that guy's another level. And it was cool to see him. Cool to see him back on the broadcast. But look, like I said, I think they had 3 really good weeks of open announcements. That's the way those things should look. They were simple. They were fun. There was a lot of energy in the building. They didn't put a lot of extra superfluous stuff in there. There was learn about the affiliate, interview somebody, show me the community. Let's have a good time throwing down. Here's the workout. Great, done, end of the story. And I thought they executed it really well.
Yeah. And even when I was talking to some of my friends at my affiliate, I tried to get feedback from them too. And some of them who work like real desk jobs, they always want to tune in for the open to at least see what the workout is. Yeah. And they really appreciated how within the first 10 minutes this year, you knew what it was because they did that 30-minute pre-show, but before 3 p.m. or noon your time. So I think that the format, hopefully they stick with it for years to come because I thought it worked really well.
Simple and effective.
And props we talked about Travis Bagent. What about Tyson Bagent going out hot on that first row? I was like, to steal something from his dad, because his dad always at the games used to refer to everyone as young man and young lady.
That's right.
Yeah.
Especially when he's talking to someone that like, I don't know, like Pat Burke. He's like, dude, I'm like 5 years older than you. Why are you calling me young man? As soon as Tyson came out, I was like, ooh. That's a tough pace, young man. I don't know if you're going to be able to hold that one.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. I realized that doing that workout, I paced it totally wrong. I took it way too easy like I did. I tend to overpace things. I should have gone like a bat out of hell on those first 5 wall walks, get to the rower as fast as I could because I got 3 minutes to recover. Like wall walks take a lot out of me. I was the last guy off the wall of the group. I did it with my dad group. I was the last guy off the wall, but one of the first off the rower. And I'm like,
oh, wow.
Damn, I could have saved myself some time. My buddy Tim, who's a lot more fit than I am, he's got a really good, much better motor. I'm stronger. He's got better endurance. He was off the wall first. We were working out side by side. So he got off the wall probably about a good 20 seconds ahead of me, and I caught him on the rower like pretty quickly. But yeah, that's like if I had done it again, I would have like really sprinted through those first couple of rounds and then tried to settle in after that.
What was your time?
I got into like halfway through the snatches. I think that's all. I didn't finish it.
Tommy, what was your time?
What was your time?
I asked you first.
I was 17:29.
Damn.
Dang it.
And granted, I did, the whole time I did it, I was like, if I had actually been in shape working out for the past 4 months, and if I hadn't just spent 5 days in Scottsdale, not exercising and sleeping, I might actually, this might have been like a 15-minute for me, but because I like this workout a lot. But instead I had to settle with 17:29. So what about you?
Settle. Screw you.
18:47.
That's good. The fact that you finished that one.
I know, especially with 100 cals. Guys, I pull like a 650, maybe a 700. So you can do the math of how much. I'm not kidding you. That is what I pulled.
Dang.
But
Yeah.
but still,
very fast
like
at the other things. Very slow at the row.
yeah, you're trying to tell me that your thruster distance was the same as mine, or that your arm length on chest to bar pull-ups is the same as mine. Don't.
Anyway, that was what you finished it. Well done. Like I said, I realized when I got to the barbell for the snatches, I went, man, I way overpaced this. That was stupid. But in my little master's crew, I was like the oldest. I think I was the oldest guy in there, so I think I did pretty well. So,
Look at you go.
Well, you forget. Like my mind still thinks I'm 23. My body is like, no, you're not. No, you are not. And then just a hot bucket or a cold bucket of reality right in the face. Anyway, so this is now I don't want to put end on a negative here, but this is the question I have now as we proceed into the rest of the season. So we've had 3 really good weeks of like high quality media production from CrossFit from their first 3 announcements. Good stories being told on site. Fun. I thought the workouts were really good, really accessible. Mm-hmm. But now we enter sort of uncharted territory because now that the quarterfinals aren't a thing anymore, and now we do the in-affiliate semifinals and the in-person semifinals. CrossFit is not putting on any of those. So how do fans stay engaged with the sport? Because I know there are plans for some of these in-person events to be quote unquote streamed. Now, what the level of, I think that there's going to be a big level, or a big delta there, of like what each one looks like. Some of them may not even be available to watch. I don't know. So that's my concern now is how do people stay engaged and follow the season on a week-to-week basis other than just checking the leaderboard or just your normal, you tune into podcasts and things like that. Like, how are you going to be watching as a fan?
Well, and that's the thing. Like, I wish that, like, even though it's up to the specific competitions to decide whether or not they're going to live stream or what their media coverage looks like, I wish that there could be a system that was then filtered onto whether it's just CrossFitGames.com or the CrossFit YouTube channel where people could go and see whether these competitions were doing the coverage. Because I mean, I even looked at my calendar and there's some weekends that have multiple events, and to keep track of like, okay, what's happening this weekend? What weekend is it? Because it's not where we're used to, well, at least for the last couple of years, where basically your entire month of May is going to be having semifinals. Like there's Mayhem Classic in 2 weeks, then there's TFX in about a month, and then a couple weeks after this. I think so. Yeah.
It's like beginning of April, right?
1, 2. Yeah. It's the first weekend of April.
Jeez, all right.
2 weekends from this weekend.
I crept up.
Quick.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just wish that there was like one area that I could go to as a viewer where it would have everything filter through that. Oh, Torian Pro is going on. Oh, Mayhem Classic's going on. I can monitor these 2 streams on this one channel.
Yeah.
So
I just don't know what to expect.
Yeah, it would be great if the games website, they had each stream or each place embedded like they used to do for the different regional streams coming in.
Yeah.
I don't know if they have the manpower to do that. I don't know if that's in the plans or not, but especially
right, and maybe it is.
And it could be, yeah, right. Like this was the biggest knock during the sanctions era, is that it made following everything amidst the chaos of everything that was going on very difficult, right? And CrossFit was not directing traffic in the same way that you used to just be able to show up to the CrossFit Games website. You used to be able to, toggle between the tabs between all the different regionals, and you used to be able to watch them seamlessly. And then that there was some coverage that kind of tied everything together. Now, granted, you may not have the same tight schedule of things going on, but I think the fact that it's spread out is even more important for CrossFit to be able to have some sort of comprehensive control center, if you will, to make sure that everybody knows that they can go there to get their info. And then, like with the embedding into the website, you could always still click on the YouTube channel to go and look at, like, say, the Torian Pro's YouTube, because I think it's also important now to go and support those event partners' channels directly as well. So having a way to access it through the game site and then go and support them directly because they're the ones, sticking their neck out. I that would definitely be help. Hopefully that's in the works, but I think that's something that would be greatly beneficial at this point, when now there's a lapse in coverage. At least it's not as tight, and like where I think the changes of the past 3 to 4 seasons constantly have left people kind of, I don't want to say less informed, but just reeling from constantly having to update how they stay involved.
Yeah, it's not easy. If you got to go multiple spots, but we don't know. Maybe there's something in the works for that. But that's the big question I have now as we move forward. But as we shift gears now to the World Fitness Project, they're starting to ramp things up. They have announced their challenger workouts. Mm-hmm. Tommy, explain how this works for people who aren't really sure about what the world, how the World Fitness Project operates, because you're pretty well embedded in this.
Yeah, so I think some people who watch the first episode of On the Pulse, I'll be calling the live events in Indianapolis, Phoenix, and Copenhagen, as well as doing some coverage throughout the season, which should be fun. Excited to get that going. I'm going to be alongside Jeremy Austin for the first time. We were just kind of talking about that. We've never actually got to call an event together, so
legend.
I know. So I'm excited. And, Lauren Smith and a bunch of our friends are going to be involved. So super stoked on that. But the way this qualifier works is, so you have basically what's considered the elite division or the professional division. Mm-hmm. There's 30 spots. 20 of those spots are guaranteed to the signed pros. So it's basically they have a pre-qualification to all 3 events throughout the season. The additional 10 spots are up for grabs through the qualifier, similar to how Rogue does. They do the invites and then they fill some spots through a qualifier. So in this challenger qualifier, you can earn the 10 spots to go in the pro division, but the next 20 spots outside of those top 10 also get to go compete in person in what's called a challenger division. So even though you're not with the pros there, you're still earning points till the overall season, right? Because people miss qualifications. Some people underperform. Some people don't even compete, injuries, things like that. It still provides an opportunity for you to rack up points. Now, that will happen for Indianapolis and Phoenix. So there's a point system that's on the board. We explain it. There's a video explaining it all on the World Fitness Project website. You can also go check out On the Pulse episode 1, where we have a comprehensive video that explains all of that as well, how the points work. Because 30 points are 1 through 30 earn points in various fashions in the pro division, but based on your finish in the challenger, you can also earn points as well. When it gets to Copenhagen, that's the end of the season. That's the final event. Rather than doing a qualifier for those 30 pro spots to fill out the pro division, instead it's just going to be the 20 pros and the 10 highest points earners throughout the season. So if you did well in the first 2 events and you're in the top 10 points wise beyond the pros, then you get your spot. So 20 pros at the finals plus the next 10 highest points earners throughout the season, and they'll compete. After it's all said and done, Copenhagen's all done, there'll be a comprehensive leaderboard for points accumulated throughout the season. Points are worth double at Copenhagen, making it a bigger stakes. It's also longer, more events, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Those top 20 athletes in points, regardless of whether you're a signed pro or not, those top 20 athletes earn your pro card for the next season.
Okay. And then the process starts again.
Okay,
cool.
Yep. So this year they just signed pro athletes based on a certain criteria. After this year, it's all based on merit, on a performance on the competition floor. So the top 20 points earners will earn their pro card for the next year, which earns them, guaranteed prize purses, guaranteed entry into all of the events that'll be on the WFP season the following year. And also, stuff like, it covers travel expenses. They're getting travel stipends to be at the events, and a whole ton of perks that come with being a pro and having your pro card for the following season as well. So, yep. So right now, the Challenger qualifier just started. As we're recording this, it's the 19th. It goes through the 25th. The workouts were just announced. There's 3 workouts. The third workout is a 2-part workout, so 2 scored portions of 3A and 3B. You have until the 25th to sign up and submit. And if you're in the top 10 of the qualifier, you get entry into the pro division, and the next 20 You get entry into the challenger division. One of the reasons why it's important to fill out the challenger division too, if you make it in there, if someone has to pull out, they are going to backfill spots.
Okay.
So if you're in the challenger division and you're going to compete in Indy, and say you were 11th in the qualifier, and 2 days before someone tweaks something, has to pull out. Well, guess what? You're not the top ranked guy in the challenger division anymore. You just made your way into the pro. They will backfill.
That's cool.
Yeah,
so
I like that.
It provides a feeding system for backfills on site also, so those people can stay ready and keep the engine warm.
Yeah. Great. All right. Well, that's exciting. So you can, if you want to go to Instagram, they have all the 3 workouts. And like Tommy said, going on now, throw your hat in the ring if you think you can be part of that. But there's also, there was another piece of news, Lauren, that happened with the World Fitness Project that stirred a lot of conversation.
Yeah. So they announced that they are having this fitness project initiative. So essentially they are in the process of releasing what they're calling their founding 50. So 50 affiliates that are going to be the first group that are really going to be those voices that decide how this program works. So, from the information we have so far, kind of think of it as another affiliate program, but it's not exclusive. So a lot of these are, I would assume that most, if not all of them, are already CrossFit affiliates, maybe High Rocks affiliates. They can be, Tactical Games, Metfix, any of those. This would just be in addition to that. And based on the press release, some of the things that they're going to be focusing on is community member engagement, profit sharing, buying power, media exposure, and just ways that they can all elevate each other together. So far, they've announced 2 of their affiliates. One of them is in Waukesha, Wisconsin. I'm not sure where the other one is, but they seem to be kind of slow rolling all of the 50, or at least until they get it. And then I'm sure they'll release more information from there on how exactly it will work.
Yeah. Well, look, I give the World Fitness Project credit. Like they've put out some media. They're kind of laying down a roadmap here and setting expectations of what fans can see during the season and how they can follow along. Excited to see that first event. Like, love the way that they're doing this challenger division and following that. Like, there are multiple stories to follow throughout the year. I think it's going to be super exciting. And now I just want to see how they pull it off. A lot of optimism, but I think just because I've been in this space long enough and everything that's always happened, I'm like, okay, now I believe it when I see it. But it's like the names that Tommy listed off there, they got a lot of good people involved. It's not like they're just pulling any old Tommy.
A lot of hype. I can't wait to watch.
Yeah, no, it'll be good. I think it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah. And I'm excited, not just for this season, but like what
right.
Next season looks like, right? This is still in its infancy. So exciting stuff regardless.
Yeah.
Well, and also like, how is this going to and I know we've talked about it before, but how does this play with the game season? Does it play with the game season? What are athletes going to do? So I think this year is very interesting to see what year 1 looks like and how it kind of lays the groundwork for, the next however many years.
And does it expand? Is it, 4 events next year? Who knows? Like, if it's successful. But I've said this before, like, I like the fact that they're starting relatively small. Let's not go too big too fast. Let's just show the concept, show how it works, and let's go from there. It's like, I think if you go back and you look at other things that are try to compete, like you look at Grid went way too big, way too fast. And that was doing
that
should be a 30 for 30. Like, someone needs to do an ESPN 30 for 30.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Like, just all the stories and the things that I've heard from people, like, oh my God, like that is
doing the first announcement at Madison Square Garden.
Oh my, yeah. That's what I knew. When I looked up ticket prices for that online, I was like, what? Yeah, it was not cheap. But look, that was, that's how Tony operated. He went big and it didn't matter. But yeah, just to wrap this up, I like where they're starting. I think they have not bitten off more they can chew here. Okay, next big thing, and this is what we're going to spend basically the majority of the show talking about, is the sale of CrossFit. They announced it. They put it out. They put a post out. CrossFit did. They had an affiliate town hall with Don Fall where they announced it. And plenty of outlets have talked about it. We've talked about it. This is sort of one of the worst kept secrets out there that this was going to happen. And now it's okay. who's going to emerge here? Like who's going to be the buyer? Because, Lauren, I know you've talked to people. There seems to be interested parties, plural, as far as, what they want to buy in total. That could be a little different. I think one might be interested in just the methodology part and not really too wild about the sport. The other might want the whole package. And now we have U.S. Olympian Shawn Johnson.
Yeah.
This was today. I'm going to try to
heavy hitter.
Yeah. Which was, that was interesting. Let me see if I can call
this. Shocked me. Not much shocks me in life anymore, but this is not what I had on my
No, I didn't expect this today.
Believe me, Lauren is jaded beyond belief. She is just a monolith of cold stone and cold stone and cold stones.
Yes. Well, okay. So here's the post. This is from Shawn. Oh, cold stone's great. This is from Shawn Johnson, U.S. Olympian, 4.3 million followers on Instagram.
She's amazing.
Dear CrossFit community, we are in talks to bring together an ownership group to buy what we think is an incredible organization and system that has changed our lives and the lives of many others for the better. We've been to affiliates across the country and across the world and think that supporting these 11,000 plus business owners is the missing piece to tapping into the full potential of what this wonderful community has to offer and is the best way to support the millions of athletes involved in the movement. More to come. And that the screenshot we're showing you, if you're watching this, is from Mike Halpin put that up, and then Lauren screenshot it and sent it to us. Mm-hmm. So exciting, but I don't know if this is serious. I don't know how far along she is in putting together a group.
It's interesting. And I'm sorry if I'm kind of tiptoeing. I have spoken to people who are interested in buying. I'm obviously not going to come on here and reveal who those people are, but I do think that it is interesting that she was forward facing and made this announcement just when at least it's been made clear to me through the people I spoke with that this is very much still on the table and there's a lot that still needs to go into it and negotiations, and those people kind of want to remain anonymous at this time, but her being forward facing, I just think it's interesting. It piques my interest. I'm sure it piques her, what did you say, 4.3 million followers interests. And I mean, I don't know that we have anybody at the table that has the star power that she would have and she could potentially bring to the space and the brand.
It's also exactly what CrossFit wants, right? This is exactly why you put this out into the ether that, hey, we're for sale, right? Because you hope that someone noteworthy comes up and say, hey, I'm getting ready to go. It's the reason why you put the big fancy for sale. The reason you have an open house when you're selling. You want people to come and see it and basically show their interest, and you want them to see other people showing interest, and you want it to get into a bidding war. This is, CrossFit couldn't be happier that someone of this noteworthiness is throwing their hat into the ring, even in some capacity. Because in my opinion, that just means the price just went up.
No question.
100%.
Well,
and
I'll finish up because I have a thought I want to build on that.
And this is something that you can leverage against other sellers for better or buyers for better or for worse, right? Yeah. Like I'm just, it's the nature of the game. But at the same time, it's also like Lauren said, it's freaking exciting that someone like Shawn Johnson would be interested and motivated to try and make this happen, right? Like, she's an Olympian. She's an Olympic gold medalist. She's a world champion. She's, she was
a former professional athlete at the highest level.
A few athletes, like at least in the Olympic sports cycle, few athletes capture the attention of the world audience as well as gymnastics. Yeah. Like gymnastics, and particularly women's gymnastics, has been a marquee event since the 70s, since the days of from
Nadia Comaneci.
Nadia Comaneci and going, then you come back to Carrie Strug and all
Mary
of these.
Lou Retton. Don't forget Mary Lou Retton. She's on the box.
Mary Lou Retton. Sorry, but for me and my generation, the Carrie Strug, like broken leg, like vault, and the everything that's gone on since. And you even look at like from Olympic athletes now, who is arguably the biggest star, Simone Biles.
Yeah.
The something about the women's gymnastics and what they're able to capture in the audience is huge. And Shawn Johnson was at the top there, and she has since transitioned. She's to a different lifestyle, but health and fitness has become a big part since. If you follow her on social media, health and fitness has been a really big part of her post gymnastics career. Starting a family with her husband, who was in the NFL, Andrew East. He was the long snapper for your Los Angeles Rams. Briefly, Shawn.
How did I not know that?
Briefly.
Wow, briefly. I had a cup of coffee with him. All right.
Yeah, I believe he got signed in the offseason and then released somewhere before the season or before the full season started. But yeah, so and she has videos of them working out in their home gym and clearly like fitness has become an important part of their lifestyle with their family. So I just think this is a pretty cool development that, like Lauren said, that someone like this is interested.
Yeah.
I hope there's more people like that interested.
Well,
because I think it displays some value to the community of like, hey, this is what's still worth fighting for,
Well, I think too, the thing that, like I said, I'll believe it when I see it. It's cool.
Yeah.
But the thing that makes me think maybe they're not that far along in the process is the fact that she felt the need to put it out on social media, which could be very. I have 4.3 million followers. I'm going to put this out there to see if anybody is interested in joining me. See how much interest we can get, because I'm sure there's some very deep pockets that follow her and people who might be interested in this. And there are some professional athletes out there, former professional athletes who are involved in CrossFit who have, is it Alex Rodriguez who I think he's involved in a little bit in Miami. Like he knows about it. Like hell, that guy could stroke a check right now.
Yeah.
So it's exciting that there is star power involved, but star power is one thing. Turning that into business acumen and actually knowing what to do is a whole different ballgame. And you just hope that they're smart enough.
But she could potentially be that domino effect, because the 4.3 million followers between the people that she's connected who do have financial backing, the brands that she can extend besides the ones that we already have in the CrossFit space, the other athletes, like you said, investors. I just think that having somebody like Shawn Johnson share that on Instagram, I mean, CrossFit celebrating. They must be.
I agreed. And like, I think that's a really good point I didn't even think about that. Access to sponsors, access to other big names that she has to bring in. This could be a really good thing if done right. But the bottom line is, the more people you have that publicly say they're interested, the more that price, starts to go up. And who knows how many other people are interested, but it's one of those things that'll be fun to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
Do you think this will officially sell before the games? Sorry to cut you off, Tommy.
That's a good question. I think things would have to happen pretty quickly in order for that to be a done deal by the games. I don't know how much of a hurry. This is not the same situation as we had back in 2020 when it was, the ship had struck the iceberg, it was on fire, and pirates had boarded, and we got to figure something out how to do this. Like, it was a much different situation. So I don't know if there's a good. I think that is a long way of me saying I don't know. I don't think so. Although it would be the right time to introduce new owners is on that stage. Like, that would be the right time to do it when you have the eyes of the entire community all in one place.
Does the games have another year on the contract of the ESPN deal? Or is that over?
I think this is the last one.
Okay.
I thought last year was the last one. Because I thought when they had it in Madison, it was a 2-year deal. It was Madison, Fort Worth, and that was it.
And I think there was an option for a third.
Oh, okay. So
I can confirm. Hold on.
All right. Well, while you're doing
Sorry,
that,
Tommy, did you have another thought?
Oh, I was just going to say, like, it's I'm just kind of like digging in the Shawn Johnson thing. Like she does some really cool stuff in the space. Obviously, she runs like a digital content and digital content agency. She's also very active in like entrepreneurship and volunteer work. But I got to look up the name of it. She also runs a website. Because I remember seeing this back in the day when I think after she had one of her kids, she was very outspoken about like body image. Particularly someone that went through the gymnastics rigmarole and how there's so many female gymnasts leave with like eating disorders and things like that. And then, going to the other side of it of coming off having kids. And obviously there's like, your body changes and weight gain associated with that. And she was very outspoken. I believe it's called thebodydepartment.com. I have to look. But she does run there's some cool aspects about what she has done in her career that I think from a figurehead standpoint could make it a good fit.
Yeah.
That's obviously very surface level, but, and this is like, just initial instincts without there obviously still being a ton to go. But this is the type of person you would hope would step up, it seems like.
Yeah. All right. Well, speaking of business acumen, let's get to our interview for today. Many of you, I'm sure, have heard of Two Brain Business, and the man behind that is Chris Cooper. He founded Two Brain, I think, back in 2008. And since then, he's helped a ton of gyms be profitable. He's written books. He was nice enough to let me read the audiobook for one of them. So I think it's Founder, Farmer, Tinker, Thief. If you want to pick that up on audiobook, I will read it to you. So that was fun.
Oh my God. Wait, really?
Yeah, I did the audiobook.
That's not what I thought you meant by that.
No, I read the audiobook. It's like it's like an honor. He asked me to read the audiobook and I was like, yeah, I'll do and it's just.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
That should be at the top of your resume, to be honest.
100%.
But it's
or in your Instagram bio.
Yeah, but he does Two Brain Business is fantastic. Chris is a super smart guy. And after I saw his post on CrossFit's announcement where he was super detailed, and I think really laid out some concrete things that can be done to help get this thing back on track. I was like, I got to talk to Chris. And full disclosure, I've worked with Chris before. When I first got laid off from CrossFit, he allowed me to do some media stuff for Two Brain that I really enjoyed. I've always had a ton of respect for Chris and everything he does in the space. So I wanted to have him on. I spent a couple days ago, as actually over the weekend, he was nice enough to take some time out of his schedule to join me. So here's my conversation with Chris Cooper from Two Brain Business. Chris, thanks so much for doing this, man. How you been?
Thanks, Shawn. It's an honor. It's awesome to see you again, and I've been doing great.
Let's talk about what the big topic of conversation is right now. And the reason I wanted to have you on is that you posted a very lengthy, for lack of a better term, roadmap on CrossFit's post announcing that they were looking for a new owner, that they were for sale. So first thing that for people who have not seen it, the first thing I wanted to ask you, and I've had this conversation with other people, and we have never been able to put our finger on it. What does CrossFit sell?
Well, I think they have three products. So the first product is the methodology, which is free and always has been. The second product is certification, which is probably still the best in the world. And the third product is affiliation, which is a license agreement to use the brand to promote your own training business. They do sell one other thing, which is basically sponsorship. So that looks like games advertising, and then partnership in the affiliate partner network, where you basically pay a fee to be promoted to affiliates. So three products, three slightly different revenue streams.
You have been part of this community for a long time, and you've seen a lot of change. And in the comment, you posted sort of a roadmap of how we got here. But what are the major events in your mind that have shaped where the business is right now?
Well, the part that I focus on the most is probably the affiliate side of things. But I have been a fan of the games and stuff for a long time. And we actually got involved with CrossFit in 2006 because we were trying to disprove it. In my gym, we were like, it doesn't work. No way. And then we ran our own trial, and the three trainers, we all fell in love with it. And we said, and then, we extended the trial to like 30 people, and they loved it. And so I I sent Greg and the CrossFit Journal this letter, and it was the first thing that I ever had published anywhere on CrossFit.com. It's called The Science of Sticking with It. And it was basically, we set out to prove that this wouldn't work, and then it did. But before that, even around 2006, well, the first affiliate was 2004. That was CrossFit North, Rob Wolf, Nikki Violetti. And they approached Greg and said, how much do you want for us to use the term CrossFit? And he's like, what? And, the way that he told the story was he was surprised by that. And so he just spit out a number, which was $500. And they said, okay, great. Away we go. And according to the old story, he went home and said to his wife, Lauren, at the time, like, wow, imagine if someday we had 4 of these. And, at that time, that's just what the affiliate agreement was. And I don't know how the second and third came about, but there was a CrossFit West and a CrossFit North. And by 2006, there were enough of these that Greg wanted to get the affiliates together. And so he did in the first affiliate gathering. It was called something else, but they put a couple of people on stage. One of those was John Birch. And John Birch was coming out of the karate background. And the karate business model, still to this day, is get 30 kids, dress them all alike, cram them in a small room with no equipment, and then just like synchronize their punches and kicks, right? It's basically choreography more than in self-defense. But like that's the model. And so Birch, who had just kind of started partnering at CrossFit LA with Andy Petranek, was proposing that this is the model for affiliates. You get 30 people in a class. And at that time, the model seemed really viable because all the CrossFit affiliates were the first in their city. So they were getting all the early adopters. And so this kind of became like the attractive model. And, years later, Craig Patterson from Mad Lab, he wrote this big, long blog post that I can't find now, but he said that Greg called him up from that affiliate gathering and said, hey, I'm starting to hate these guys less. And Craig thought that maybe they were going to pay him. But that's the message that went out to the early affiliates was like, you want 30 people in a class, you run this big class group, you have all these people together. But that's not actually what Greg did. What Greg did, and he talked about this on a podcast I did with him back in 2018 at his house. What Greg did was small group. It was 4 to 6 people paying slightly less than personal training. And he was packed, and he had this 1,200 square foot space. I'm sure you've seen it, been there maybe, and wildly profitable. Like that was the original working effective model. But when the affiliate agreement came out, they said, well, we don't want to be a franchise. If we're a franchise, we have to take some responsibility for the success of all these gyms. We want to be licensed. So we're going to stay mute about the best business practices. And, that will appeal to a lot of people like me. I want to figure this out for myself, but if I can leverage your brand, great. And so for the first several years, people just started running these big group classes. And that's what you saw on CrossFit.com. And that's what you heard about on the CrossFit message boards. And around 2008, 2009, some people like Nikki Violetti started to speak up and say, actually, that's not the way. Like that's not working for us. And you need to have an on-ramp program. And it wasn't working for me. And I was almost bankrupt from trying to implement it. And a couple of people got together and held this thing called the Black Box Summit. So that was, James Fitzgerald. Was it Greg Everett? Anyway, you can find it if you Google it. And I even linked to it in my article. And they got up on the stage and they started giving business advice. And Dave Castro was in the audience, and a couple of other people from HQ. And they, took issue with some of the stuff that was said. But what's interesting is they didn't say that's the wrong way to run a business. They took issue with people criticizing like the med ball clean at the L1 and stuff like that, procedural stuff. But from that point on, like business talk was absolutely no way in the CrossFit media. And so affiliates were left with this standing myth that the last advice we heard from HQ was big groups. So that's what we're going to do. Around 2013, Mike Workington was the editor of the CrossFit Journal then, and he sent a couple of videographers like Mike Kozlat to a seminar that I was doing down in South Carolina. And they filmed the entire thing and they put it all in the CrossFit Journal, and it went okay. And then, meanwhile, I had a book that just by this completely magic accident had sold 26,000 copies and become the best-selling fitness business book of all time. And people were calling for advice. And so Mike thought, okay, well, he's got a bit of cred. I was also working for CrossFit Media at that time, so it was probably just easier for Greg to offer me a job and kind of keep me under the umbrella, right? But for the next decade, the conversation has always been, give business advice. Don't give business advice. Let's have a partnership. Stop saying that, and it's been back and forth like that. And I kind of broke it down in the article, Shawn, but what's happened now is that you've got 9,958 affiliates by my count this morning worldwide. At our peak, we had 15,000, and there are 10 to 15,000 more who have de-affiliated or gone out of business. And I really think like part of that is that the model is to blame, and it's fixable. But if nobody stands up and says like, here's what has to be done, then nothing's going to change. And it doesn't matter if CrossFit's sold or not.
You mentioned kind of a contraction in the business, and I don't know if that's the exact wording you use in the article, but is that, and you've talked about this in some of your books, is that necessarily a bad thing?
Well, so a really smart guy, and this is probably the most successful affiliate in the world, but CrossFit HQ probably wouldn't even be able to say who that is because they don't track, right? He said, you know what? I don't care if we go down to 5,000 affiliates. That's less competition for me. And I started thinking about that. And at first I agreed with him, but then I realized like we're looking at this wrong. And the problem with the shrinking affiliate count is not, hey, less competition. It's that eventually you're going to get to this critical point where the marketing isn't reaching enough people anymore, right? Like at 10,000, if you look at like the growth curve of affiliates, from 0 to 100 was extremely slow. 100 to 500 was pretty slow. 500 to 2,000 was really fast. 2,000 to 10 was insane. Like, but the same thing can happen in reverse. And the problem is that a lot of us have thought in the past, like the CrossFit Games is the primary marketing message of CrossFit, but it's not. Every affiliate is one little marketing machine. They are out there and they're promoting the CrossFit brand. In fact, they're giving more value to CrossFit HQ than CrossFit HQ is giving to them because they've got these little 10,000 robots out there marketing your brand every single day. Their marketing is 1,000 times more effective than anything else. And if there's too few of those, eventually you just lose critical mass, and that market isn't, or the marketing isn't reaching the broader audience anymore. So that's my fear. And the smaller and smaller it gets, the faster and faster it shrinks.
Okay. Yeah. I think I was looking at it more from a quality perspective, is that I think the perception is that gyms that aren't run well or aren't serving the community the way they should be are the ones that are falling off. And because of that contraction, does that strengthen the overall brand perception?
Well, to an extent, that's true, right? Like the weakest gyms will fail. And years ago when I was on the CrossFit for Hope kind of group, that's something that Greg did tell me, like when the weak gyms fail, that's better for everybody because the owner stops wasting their time. The coaches get a job at a better affiliate, make a better living. The clients go to a better affiliate. But that presupposes that the best affiliates have the best coaches. And that's not necessarily true. There are lots of amazing coaches who are out there selling real estate now because they just couldn't make a living at this. You have to be good at business to run a good affiliate. You can't just be a good coach. You have to be a good coach, but that's necessary but insufficient. So the ones that are failing, sadly, are these amazing, passionate coaches. Like there's never been anybody who's gotten into this for money. I didn't, you didn't. And nobody's getting out of it for any reason except money. Yeah. So money is not the reason they start, but it's always the reason they leave. And they might say something else like, I'm burned out, can't get any help, too much competition, tired of the BS. But money solves all those problems. And so the real reason they're leaving is money. And being a better coach will not make you the money that will keep you in the industry long enough, unfortunately. So shrinking affiliates means that like the best business owners are going to survive, but not necessarily the best coaches.
Along the timeline that you talked about, where do you think the missed opportunities were to sort of adapt to maybe prevent us from getting to the point where we are now, where so much needs to be corrected?
Yeah, I don't know all the opportunities that were ever in front of HQ, but there were certainly some times where I've been in contact with them, 2018. Okay, Chris, we're ready to make a deal now. Bring your team out to Santa Cruz. We're going to round up a couple of dozen affiliates and we're going to let's try the CrossFit business seminar. And we ran that, got great feedback. And then at the very last minute, it was like, nope, we're not giving affiliates advice. The second we give affiliates advice, the second we're culpable for their success. And so, there was a missed opportunity there. There was probably a missed opportunity right from the start to kind of say who's doing stuff best. But the biggest, Nikki Violetti goes out and publishes the Performance Menu Journal on her own, starts giving business advice. Like they probably should have talked about that. That was good advice. The biggest opportunity where things came to a crux for me was still working for CrossFit. So this must have been before like December 2018. I'm down in Santa Cruz. Everybody's out for breakfast. Jeff Kane's there. Bruce, the COO, is there. So whatever. And we're sitting outside at that cafe, and Bruce is like, "What's the number one thing that HQ can do to help affiliates?" And I think Bruce got it. Bruce bought into an affiliate. Like Bruce got it. And I said, "Well, you don't have to tell us what to do, but collect data from all of us just so that we know who the best are." So if Shawn has the best revenue at his affiliate in the world, I can call up Shawn and be like, "How you doing that?" Or I can just copy what Shawn does, or even look at his prices or whatever, right? Just put the numbers out there. And it's either Bruce or Jeff said, "That sounds awesome. We're never going to do it." And that was a big turning point for me. And I said, well, I spent about 2 days being depressed about it. And then finally I was like, well, how could it be done? And so we started several years ago, just doing like an affiliate or a gym owner survey. Now really quickly realized that if we partnered with Wodify Push Press Kilo, that we could get a ton of gym data. And now we publish it every year for free. We get data from like 15,000 gyms. We send this to like 7,000 gym owners worldwide. Like the big guide is right behind me, and we just give it away for free. Like twobrainbusiness.com/data. It costs me $250,000 every year just to put this thing together, but we do it because we feel like this is what CrossFit should have done. And now we do it for CrossFit gyms and we do it for everybody else. And that data is what guides our recommendations. So it's not just I think big group training is bad. I love big group training. I wish that was the successful business model. But when you look across 15,000 gyms, you'll see the top gyms are doing small group or personal training or both.
What is that? What are the main takeaways? You just started talking about it, but what are the main takeaways that you get from that you've taken from that data?
Well, so number one is, CrossFit gyms are charging way too little. I mean, we're a coaching business. We're not selling access. And so, years ago, I can remember being on a call with somebody in Atlanta, and he said, you can't sell CrossFit for more than $79 a month in Atlanta. But if you look at all the gyms in Atlanta, what you'll see are, here's Miles Davis, Brandon Brigman, Rick Thompson. Here's a small group of 4 or 5 gym owners who meet on their own every month, and they're all charging over $200 a month. Well, why is that possible? And then when you find those outliers, you can say well, let's teach this to everybody else. And that's basically how Two Brain works. Let's find the best and teach that to everybody else. And I learned that from CrossFit.
Yeah.
Let's find the best deadlifter and give everybody a deadlifting program. That's it.
Well, let's go back to the state of the business, and things are much different now than they were, back in 2007, 2008. It is a completely different landscape. So if you were looking at this and you were going to advise someone who is interested in buying it, first question, what would you say the challenges are facing CrossFit?
Well, I think that we're entrenched in a lot of old and outdated stories, but they live on because there's a vacuum, right? Nobody's telling a new story. So I think bring CrossFit Media back. And that's not just because I was part of CrossFit Media and I love CrossFit Media and you and Mike Workington and Leaf and everybody else. But the first thing Greg ever said to me after I got hired was every company is a media company. So CrossFit kind of lost its way on that. They need media to tell a new story. And that's the big thing, right? The only time we hear from HQ right now is an apology, a free t-shirt, or like, oh, by the way, we put a for sale sign on the wall. Like there has to be a bigger story. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is like, we have to get back to and clarify the mission again. A lot of affiliates are really struggling to know, like, what are we doing here? So that's the second step. And I think that the mission is forging elite fitness, but somewhere along the line that got confused with fitness for elite people, right? Like, and the thing is, the message needs to be, the story that we tell has to be like, everybody can and should want to pursue elite fitness so that you're a self-advocate in your own health. Yeah. That's it. We also need somebody to address or evolve maybe the method at looking at new science. Like the method got formulated and simplified and cast in stone 20 years ago. And now what's happening is like, Peter Attia is talking about zone 2. He's talking about how he used to do CrossFit, right? And there's a lot of this stuff out there. We've got wearable tech. Garmin is like one of the fastest growing stocks in the world. You've got gyms can do blood typing or blood testing, all this stuff. And when you ask anybody at CrossFit about it, like, hey, should I do zone 2? They're like, we don't do that because we're CrossFit. I mean, it sounds a lot like the Catholic Church. It's dogma. Yeah. So you need somebody that's going to kind of like, let's talk about science again. That's not going to come from private equity. And then once you've got those things, you've got good storytelling. You've gotten some clarity on the mission, and you're starting to address evolution in science. That's when you can start talking about how do we improve the affiliation? How do we improve the games? And what do we do with certifications?
On the flip side of that, what are the advantages that CrossFit has going for it right now?
Well, there are several. I mean, number one, they've got 10,000 people who took a giant leap in their life from which there's no like quick exit. They've quit the good job. They've taken out a big loan. They want nothing more than CrossFit to survive, right? They are the storytellers now. That's massive. Second is you've got a lot of connections in the industry with the best and brightest. So, you can still talk to like the best weightlifters in the world and get them doing a weightlifting seminar. You can still talk to like anybody that's the CEO of CrossFit has the ear of the media. You can walk up to Time Magazine and be like, here's the plan. Yeah. What you can't do though, is you can't go out to the media and spend a year saying we're sorry or saying that plan's dumb. You have to say like, here's what we're doing about it. So, the people are really the top thing that they have going for it. There's also a lot of partners who can actually help out there, and the partners want CrossFit to be successful. They're finding out that they're floundering without CrossFit media. I built this t-shirt company. I sold it to affiliates. It was amazing. And now CrossFit's not talking about my t-shirt company anymore. And then, and another massive head start that CrossFit has is like Rogue. If there's any partner in the world you want on your side, like it's Bill Henniger. Yeah. And they don't ever ask him anything, right? Like to my knowledge, why wouldn't they do that? And so, that I think a lot of that is part of it. There's still a lot of talented people, passionate people who live and die for CrossFit involved, but they're not being applied or leveraged or used in a focused way. And they're all standing out there like, Shawn, use me, and like they want to be tapped, but they just don't feel like they're part of the inner circle or that they can penetrate the ivory tower.
Does whoever comes in and buys this, do they need to exact maybe some more control? And what I mean by that is not necessarily a full-blown franchise model, but something more to where there is a more concerted effort or more coordinated effort with marketing among the affiliates, or it's like, I guess the analogy I always use is like hitting someone with an open hand or a closed fist. And I think right now it's an open hand because you have so many different affiliates and so many different people out there. Does it need to be more of a closed fist without going into a franchise model? And if so, how do you do that?
Yeah, I think it's a spectrum. I don't think it's one or the other. So the first thing that you do, and I had Josh Aycock ask me this. There's an amazing discussion about this whole thing going on in gymownersunited.com right now. And Josh Aycock was like, what's the first 90 days look like for a new owner that wants to turn this around? And I think the first thing that you have to do is you have to give affiliates all of this knowledge. So you have to say, like, here's how to read a P&L. And here's how you make decisions based on that. Like, do I buy another 10 rowers? Do I sign a 10-year lease on 10,000 square feet? Like, here's how the numbers work. We're all a bunch of first-time entrepreneurs, right? And we can all work an 18-hour day for 5 years. But the reality is, like, we need to understand business, unfortunately. So that's the first thing. The second thing is you offer mentorship from people who are actually successful on applying that stuff. So if I'm an affiliate and I want to pay my affiliate fee and I don't want to learn how to run a P&L, I sure as hell don't want somebody mentoring me on applying it. Fine. Continue to pay the license fee. Like, go your own way. It's a harder journey, but you'll be out there all alone, but like, you're free to do that, right? New people coming in, though, should be given at least that foundation. And right now, like, new affiliates are given kind of a business course, but it's not directive. It doesn't say do this. It's like, you should have a marketing plan. Okay. So like, there's two different things. The second thing is you need to put people on stage and give people resources who are actually successful. And they're not just going to get up there and talk about the N=1 experience at their gym. What they're going to say is like, here's a tool, follow this, So a lot of this is going to sound like, well, I'm just advocating for what Two Brain does. But the reason that Two Brain does these exact things is because I thought CrossFit HQ should have been doing them for the last 10 years. So, we do most of this stuff for free. Yeah. But I don't think that you have to have like an evaluation and judgment process. I think it's probably too late for that. I think what you do want to do, though, is like, make learning about business appealing. And maybe that is one benefit of the affiliate numbers shrinking, is the people who are left are either like desperate enough, like I was, to listen to somebody else, or savvy enough to say, yeah, that's valuable.
I lost my train of thought with that, but I wanted to this is what I want to ask you. Yeah. You mentioned private equity, and this isn't, and saying how like this isn't going to come from private equity. Well, that's who's in charge now, and there's a very good chance that's who's in charge, whoever buys this thing. Yeah. So if that is the case, like who is the ideal sort of owner or CEO and I mean, I know it's Donfall right now, but who's the ideal kind of group of people calling the shots to make this thing successful? Because I think one thing that, and I remember hearing this when CrossFit was first sold from someone on the inside, is like, these guys don't know what they bought. Yeah. So like, what kind of knowledge do you think you need to bring to the table in order to make this successful?
Oh, that's funny. I think Sivan said something to me like they thought they bought Harley Davidson, but they bought the Hells Angels.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's probably accurate. Yeah.
Exactly. Right.
That's good. Yeah.
So, I mean, the first thing that you have to have is a patient investor. So, no matter what happens, like the opportunity to dramatically change things for the better was in 2020. So anybody that buys it now, they're going to have to go through a tough period, 18 months if they do things fast, 2 years if they're a little bit more gun shy, of actually changing things, changing staff, getting back to the message, rehiring media, building materials to help affiliates, rejigging the CrossFit games. All this stuff has to happen. You can do it quickly and just bite the bullet and then, enjoy the long-term payoff, or you can do this slowly over time and really drag it out and give people something to complain about for the next 10 years. But whoever the company is that invests, if they want to have the long-term potential that they could have, they're going to have to go through a year and a half or 2 years of pain. And so the person who is chosen as CEO is probably going to have to be somebody who cares enough about CrossFit to go through that pain. Not just somebody who is a super duper fan of CrossFit and never wants to be seen in a negative light, but somebody who actually cares enough to plant their flag, get shot at because they have a vision for the long term that's to the benefit of everybody. The last piece is like, I don't think that they need to surround themselves with MBAs. One of the challenges, and I think CrossFit Inc. has even acknowledged this, is that like the C-suite is just on this revolving door of people who want to have their name on the brand for a couple of years and then move on. And, recently one conversation with somebody, I can't even keep track of the titles anymore, Shawn, but somebody high up in the affiliate, side of the business says that, well, whether we turn the ship around or we don't, this is going to be in Harvard Business Review and his name was going to be on it. Like, that's not what you hear from a passionate evangelist who's going to go down with the ship, You
mentioned change. We got to fix all this. There's things. It seems like we have lived in a constant state of change since 2020. So if further change is needed, what do you think the appetite is on the affiliate side for that? Since that's what they've been living, I think, for the last 5 years.
Well, yeah, man. So, the world has changed a lot, right? I don't think CrossFit has changed all that much, but the game side has.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think that's probably what I'm referring to.
Yeah, and we can talk about that. Yeah. But the key to any kind of change is that you have to have a compelling story. You have to give people hope to stick with it through the change. And CrossFit coaches do this every single day. Like, we know when somebody comes in and they say, I want to lose 20 pounds, I can't do that by Monday. Yeah. So it's my job to tell a story that gives them hope, that keeps them coming to the gym for 6 months, a year until they actually lose that weight. Well, CrossFit HQ has to do the same thing. Like, they have to tell a story of what's coming, not just a story about what we did in the past, not just that's a dumb idea, we're never going to do that, not just, well, we have to raise rates because, it's like you have to tell a story of the future. Right now, I don't think many affiliates see a bright and shining future, but they could. There could be one. Yeah.
Let's shift gears to the games because this is it's part of the world that I lived in and I still do. Where does this fit in to the whole thing? Because I feel it's like you got these affiliates and you have this thing that could be really good, but then you have this competition side that I think most people would agree has been a giant resource suck. It's how do you turn that into, how do you turn that? I guess there are a lot of questions here. Can CrossFit survive with the games? And if it can, what does it need to look like?
Yeah, I don't think in its current format, Shawn, years ago, I think you and I were both on the media team around the same time. Mm-hmm. And at that time, Reebok was involved, ESPN2 was involved. And we all thought wow, the games is how we reach the masses. Mm-hmm. And I can remember when the first Reebok Nanos came out, one of the shoe stores in my town started carrying them. Yeah. And so Robin and I went down to the shoe store and took my picture in front of the big CrossFit Nano sign. And I had this meeting with my coaches and I was like, man, we're going to have so many clients. I don't know where we're going to put them all. Can you guys all work weekends? Well, none of that happened. Yeah. Right. And so now we've learned that the CrossFit Games is not the marketing for the affiliate. And so, okay, we've accepted that now for about 5 years. We've known that, but there's no other marketing. So we can't cancel the games. But two things have happened in the last 6 months that I think have shown a better way. So the CrossFit Games, does this help the affiliate? Arguably, yes, because it gives your clients more wins. If you do the CrossFit Open and you do it in a really fun way, they love it, right? And that builds a lot of excitement in your gym. Crowning the fittest on earth, though, does not do anything for your affiliate. I mean, it sure as hell helps them. Mm-hmm. And it might help the Monster Energy drink that's sponsoring them or whoever, but it doesn't do anything for CrossFit and it doesn't do anything for the games or for the affiliate. It's just well, we've proven it again. What you actually want to do is give people the opportunity to feel as if they are the fittest they have been in their life. And so there's two clues right now that CrossFit should be paying attention to. Number one, open enrollment this year went down by 34%. Yeah. That's bananas. At the same time, the number of Hyrox affiliates in the world has multiplied 600%. Mm-hmm. 6 times they've grown. And it's the same people. Yeah. It's the same people. So what are they doing that's different? Well, Hyrox it's very, very simple. It's going to be the same every time. It's kind of like an obstacle course. You've seen it, right? Yeah. Yeah. I book a time. On the 15-minute mark, I show up, I go through it. Now, I'm not saying that CrossFit has to copy Hyrox or buy Hyrox. I'm saying this is a clue of a way that you can involve the community, give clients wins that they actually care about, and use the games as something that will build affiliates and be a catalyst to grow the movement again. So what I would do is I would look at, also the other clue, by the way, is like the Rogue Invitational. Have you gone to the Rogue Invitational?
Oh yeah. I work it.
I love it.
It's a great, it's this last one. I've thought about this a lot. The last one in Scotland was probably the best event I've ever been part of. It was fantastic.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm mad I missed it. I was in Austin the year before and I looked around. I'm like, wow, this feels like CrossFit Games 2014. Man, this is awesome. But like, let Bill have some license in running it, or you set up something like that where it feels like a big carnival, but you allow anybody to go through like the CrossFit Challenge, And so you don't have to copy Spartan Race or copy High Rocks, but you look to them for clues about like, what do people actually care about? What gets them excited? And most importantly, what keeps them in the gym? And that's about it,
You mentioned marketing with the CrossFit Games. Can that continue? What does it need to look like for it to be a marketing piece? Is it everything you just talked about, or is it we got to get it back on ESPN? We got to start having like the coverage that we used to have with sort of a constant narrative throughout the season, or what is it? How can it be or serve that purpose that I think a lot of people thought it served?
Well, I don't think ESPN is the answer, because then what ESPN is interested in is like crowning a winner, right? And I don't think that actually benefits the individual affiliate. What other sponsors would be interested in, though, is being part of it all. So, I'm at the Rogue Invitational down in Austin a year and a half ago, and the crowd is going crazy, and there's a strongman doing his thing, and Two Brain Business comes up on the big screen, and I almost broke down and cried. Like, I was just so proud to be part of it. And that's the opportunity that I think is really out there. Is there's so many sponsors like me who just want to be part of it all and help. But if the price is like, $20,000 and we'll put you on stage, or $7,500 and we'll name a drink after you at the open bar, or like for $6,000 you can sponsor the mechanical bull, like who cares, right? So I think like the big opportunity there is not let's go to ESPN and crown a winner. I think the big opportunity is like we're gonna host a fitness festival. We're gonna do 6 of these in North America, and then we're gonna have 3 in Europe, 1 in Australia, whatever. It's going to go on for 3 full days. We're going to have a rock band the first night, and you can sign up and you can run the gauntlet, and then you can stick around as long as you want and celebrate with all the others who have completed this thing alongside you, and like maybe there's different levels or whatever, but it's not like who can push themselves to the absolute, who can take the biggest risk, I guess. That's the thing that we need to stay away from. And that riskiness only comes with the idea that we need to crown the fittest on earth. I don't think we need to.
Let's say that someone comes to you and say, all right, Chris, I'm going to put you in charge. You're king for a day. We just bought this thing. And you've mentioned a lot of this throughout our conversation here, but can you give me sort of like a first 90-day roadmap of like, this has to happen, 1, 2, and 3, this has got to happen if we're going to get this thing on the right track?
Yeah, man, I can do that for sure. But first thing I want to say is like, I'm not gunning to be the CEO. I actually think that I'm way better on the outside. I'm not somebody that's like trying to be at the front of the parade. I'm the kid in the crowd saying the emperor's not wearing any clothes, The one thing that, there was a decade when I really, really, really wanted to be that guy on the inside, the business coach for CrossFit, helping affiliates. Like I wanted nothing more than that. But now I realize that like I can actually help more as an objective voice from the outside, because I'm not beholden to the shareholders or a board of directors or, I don't have to toe the party line. Like I get to work for affiliates because I don't work for HQ. That said, though, like the first step, first 90 days looks like this: clarify the mission, right? Forging elite fitness. That is very simple and replicable and repeatable. It's sticky. We just have to have media saying that forging elite fitness for everyone instead of forging the fitness of the elite athlete. Okay. So, and also why people should care. Well, you need to be self-advocates about your health. You need to build a buffer. You need to worry about your health span and your lifespan, that kind of stuff. So that's number one, right? To clarify the mission. And if the mission is like, we want to provide a tool that improves fitness across broad time and modal domains, then the second thing that we have to do is look at the definition of fitness and evolve it, right? So that involves looking at the methodology, and it's kind of bringing in somebody who's going to take a scientific approach to weigh the benefits of the new science. Biomarkers, zone 2. Okay, so which of these are really fads? That can't be done by committee. You have to have, I don't want to call it a czar, but you have to have somebody with some skin in the game there, right? Like a Peter Attia. That's a great way to do it, is hire somebody like that. Okay. I watched programming get done at HQ when it was being done by committee. I'm sure you saw it too. And it's just like, everybody gets a vote. Like that doesn't work when you're trying to do science. The third thing is like, you have to rebuild CrossFit media. So we have to keep affiliates around long enough to get through this tunnel before we can start growing again. And like the only way through this, the only way out of the challenge we're in is like through that dark tunnel. And what keeps people engaged is the bright ribbon of hope, right? Like, and you create that hope through storytelling. So CrossFit media has to be rebuilt. Doesn't have to be as big as it was, but like you need a very talented team there. Yeah. And then fourth, like if the mission is to increase fitness across broad time and modal domains, and the game has to change, the games have to change, and it's too late for 2025, right? But in 2026, I would think more about this like festival idea of giving thousands of people the opportunity to have the fittest day of their lives. You know, a lot of my friends kind of peaked in high school, and I tend to believe that like the fittest day of my life is still ahead of me. And if you can give people that opportunity, they'll have a story that they can tell for the rest of their lives, and they will tell it, you know, and that's media. So then you start looking at, so you've got the games, you've got this opportunity for people to feel amazing about CrossFit again. You've got good storytelling. That's when you start looking at the other products, right? So the games is kind of a product. Certification probably doesn't have to change, but stop requiring an L2 to own an affiliate. Like that's an asinine money grab, and it's obvious to everybody. Some affiliates have fought it with attorneys, you know? The next plan from what I hear is to like shorten the recertification period from 5 years to 3 or 4 years to 3. Again, just an obvious money grab. Like other than that, I wouldn't mess with certifications at all, but I would start looking outside again and saying like, who is the best weightlifter in the world? Who's also the best teacher of weightlifting in the world? Who is the best coach of running in the world? Like, let's bring these people inside instead of forcing them out and sticking with like, who is the best CrossFit person who's also kind of good at running, you know, like that's how Greg did it. And then, you know, basically the last step, but all doable within the first 90 days is education for affiliates. I mean, I know how easy this is because we do it every single day, and we've been doing it every single day for 13 years. But, you know, every morning you get up and you give affiliates hope, and you give them, here's one thing you can do today, you know, and maybe that's a habit. Maybe that's a tool, you know, fill in this spreadsheet. Maybe it's a video. Here's how to do a P&L. You know, whatever that is, you slowly give affiliates some traction so that they can start snowballing over time, and you'll get better affiliates, stronger affiliates. There are no better people than affiliates, but you help them make the lifestyle they hope to have.
You've mentioned media a couple of times, and one thing that I've always thought is that, you know, CrossFit does a really great job, or at their peak, they did a great job of talking inside the bubble, talking to their own. How do you reach people outside the bubble? Like, how do you get that message out of our little community and into someone who is, you know, on the couch and on the carbs that needs to get into an affiliate to improve their overall health?
Well, I think like, you know, as much as Greg understood fitness and his genius was making complex things simple, he also understood media. And that was the really mind-blowing stuff for me when I started working for CrossFit Media in 2012, 2013 was, holy crap, this is incredible. And one of the things that he said to me was, you need to talk to the smart kids and they'll explain it to everybody else. Like if you walked up to Greg on the street and you asked him a question about, you know, blood oxidation or whatever, and he's going to give you a very complicated answer, and you're going to walk away and be like, I don't know. Or I'm going to walk away and be like, what did he just say? I have no idea. Right. And but if he explains it to an intermediary, that person is going to be around it and like explain it in colloquial English to me. And I think like that's the key, is that while Greg is amazing at taking complex topics and making them simple, you have to have that layer of media there that can put it into terms that like people like me can understand, you know? And sometimes I feel the same way talking to Bill Henniger, and he'll explain this, you know, he's explaining this complicated process where like a trust of all the affiliates, you know, could get together, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, wow, that's way over my head. But if I type all of his messages into Chat GPT, I can understand it, you know, and that's what media is there for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Before I let you go here, you've mentioned hope, you know, giving people hope right now in this current climate. Like, why should affiliates, why should people in the community, why should they be hopeful?
The threats, the negativity that you see online seems like it's the whole world right now. It seems like all there is threats and negative press and, you know, people saying that's bullshit. That guy's wrong. The potential of CrossFit overshadows all of that 1,000-fold. And my goal, you know, when CrossFit posted like, hey, sorry kids, while you're away at college, we put this for sale sign on the lawn. You know, the first two comments that I saw were extremely negative. Like, what are you doing? Valid, but negative. Right. And I said, you know what, I'm going to take a lot of hits on this. And you know, I hate that. But the reality is here that like somebody has to say, here's a plan.
Yeah.
And nobody's going to agree with everything that I posted in that plan. But already the conversations I'm having, you know, with you, Bill Henniger, Mo from Beyond the Whiteboard, Brendan from Wodify, you know, people who've been around CrossFit for 20 years are extremely productive. None of them agrees with everything that I said, but there's a conversation about what has to happen now instead of like, here's what we're doing wrong. You know, that's a reason for hope, is that there are a lot of people out there who care enough to stay in the fight. And like, every affiliate should look at the 9,957 remaining other affiliates and find their hope in them.
Well, Chris, I really appreciate your time, man. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. If people want to find out more about Two Brain Business and how they can help their affiliates and they can become better business people on their own, how can they go about doing that?
Just go to twobrainbusiness.com. Actually, the fastest thing, if you don't want to read, is just go to gymownersunited.com. That's a free Facebook group. We've got 10,000 gym owners in there. About half are CrossFit affiliates and half aren't, but we all learn from each other. It's amazing. And you can find me in there every single day. And people just like DM me stuff all the time. You know, this is literally what I do in life. So you know, ask questions and ask for help. And there's usually a free tool that we can give you or something that will change the course of your business today.
Yeah, no doubt. There's a lot of resources there. I mean, we appreciate everything
so
you
much.
Do. And keep fighting the good fight.
Thanks a lot, Shawn. Thank you so much, man. This has just been a real honor.
Absolutely. Our pleasure. Man, it was great talking to Chris. I hadn't spoken with him directly like that, you know, at that length for a while. And I think after that interview, and as I was listening to him, if there's one common thread that runs through like the history of CrossFit and all of the things that have, you know, the problems and the, you know, I guess the self-inflicted wounds and the things that have gone wrong, if there's one common thread to that, it's that they just have not been willing to listen to people outside of the bubble and take advice on things like Chris was talking about, like just basic business and tracking and things like that. And I think that, you know, Tommy, you and I dealt with that when we were there in the media department. You know, there were people there just, no, this is how we do it, and we're not going to listen to anybody else.
Yeah. And even people inside the bubble, even people inside the bubble that with ideas that could be, that don't necessarily fully align with the way things have always been, kind of thing, you know, but could be new or fresh ideas and new spins on things that are already existing or evolutions. It was always seen like as a threat, right? And yeah, That's the kind of ivory tower stuff that we talked about when CrossFit first sold. That has always been a hindrance for sure.
And look, Chris said it to me. I can't remember if he said it directly in the interview or not, but how he may have said it in the interview, that he would be a perfect guy, I think, to be on the inside, but he likes being on the outside because he feels like he can affect more things out there. Mm-hmm. Regardless of that, whoever buys this thing, for the love of God, get Chris Cooper on the phone. Like, talk to him, bring him in, listen to what he has to say. You don't have to agree with all of it, but he's such a good resource for things like this. Like, he's just a super smart guy who wants to do the right thing for this community, who believes in it for all the right reasons. There's going to be no harm in picking that guy's brain and trying to help make him part of the solution, because I think he should definitely be part of it. Now, whether or not, that doesn't mean the guy has to be on the inside, but yeah.
Even the fact that he just took the time to write that entire post, it was very articulate and well thought out, and he's just putting that out there into the universe for people to, sit and digest, and it leads to more conversations like this, and the more intelligent people that we can bring in. And like you said, Shawn, we don't need to agree with everything they're saying, but one little idea can then spiral into many more. And I think it's healthy conversation to have.
Yeah, he lays out a ton of stuff. And even if there's only 1 to 2 things that you agree with, or even things that you don't agree with, but it forces you to think a little bit about like, oh, okay, well then what would be the counter to that? I think there's value in that. And that's why, like you said, Shawn, I think there's value in having him a part of that discussion.
Yeah.
Right. And, I've always loved how he advocates for business education for people running affiliates. Right. Mm-hmm. I mean, like a lot of times it was just like sink or swim, open up a gym.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yep.
And, but
I have a level 1 and I like fitness.
Yeah. Yes. I've gone to gyms like that. The first CrossFit gym I went to, and when I moved back home to Sacramento, like, loved the community, great crew, but it was clear that the owner, who I loved, a great guy, but opened it because he wanted a place for him and his friends to work out. And it was like, oh wait, business. What? What is that? And I think there were a lot of gyms like that. And Chris is absolutely right that you've got to educate people and give them the tools to run this thing well and to be successful. So, all right. Community support as we move on here. What do we got? We actually have something this week.
Yeah. So this one came down the pipe, and it's not the type of community support we're stoked to share, but it's one that's important, and there are some resources out there. So McCoy Topsy Turner. So Topsy's his nickname. He's a level 4 CrossFit coach, seminar staff redshirt, taught over 250 L1 and L2 seminars across Europe and Asia. Unfortunately chose to end his life on Saturday, March 8th, after returning back to Bali following a long-term battle with complex PTSD. So he was a well-known member of the community, someone who gave back to the broader CrossFit community through education, through the L1 seminars. And I think this was, pretty unexpected. He was a wonderful father, friend, mentor, coach, and he would be missed by many. There was a celebration of life this past weekend for him, and some friends and people around him have started a fundraiser and are starting a GoFundMe just to support his family and raise money for his family and suicide prevention. So I don't have the details of the GoFundMe just yet, but they have set up a t-shirt fundraiser where all of that money will go to that GoFundMe. So if you do have the GoFundMe details, please share it with us. We would like to share that out publicly. But if you go to thegowerhueys.com, so that is the GOWERHUEYS.com, and you click shop, it's the very first shirt up there at the top of the shop. It basically says FUCK PTSD TT, and that is a shirt that will raise money for the GoFundMe in his honor. So you can get that again. It's thegowerhueys.com. The easiest way, if you want to find a quick link on social media, CrossFit Santa Cruz, which is at the CrossFit Santa Cruz. They have the link in their bio for the shirt as well. So he traveled around the world, dropped in a ton of places, visited a lot of gyms, and left a pretty amazing path of warmth and kindness in his wake. So it's we're saddened by this, and just want to extend our heartfelt thoughts out to everyone who held him dear in their lives.
Yeah. If you have anything that you want us to get the word out on, please send it to us via Instagram, via our personal Instagrams, our Talking Elite Fitness Instagram, and include as many details as you possibly can, because we always like to make sure that we're sending folks to the right spot so we can get that support out there that is so badly needed in a lot of cases.
No doubt.
Okay, shifting gears, PRs and no reps. I don't know if I have a no rep. I have kind of I got a PR. We got a no rep?
Yeah, my no rep is blow up suits and how freaking hot they are.
Blow up suits. What were you doing in a blow up
So every year
Say more, please.
every year for it mostly has been my nephew for his birthday. I will dress up as whatever the theme is. So this was my niece's first birthday, and it was a SpongeBob under the sea theme. So I ordered online a SpongeBob and a Patrick blow up suit. And I was SpongeBob. My mom was Patrick. She stayed in the costume for maybe 5 minutes to take a picture. But then all of these 4-year-olds wanted to run outside with SpongeBob.
Yeah.
And they're driving those little motorized cars. Like, I can't tell you how many of these are at my sister and brother-in-law's house, that children everywhere in these cars, and they're like, chase us, SpongeBob, chase us. And I am sweating like you would not believe. And I can't see out of it.
Yep.
And, they got to have better ventilation in those things.
SpongeBob.
I'm hoping you end up on like an Instagram fail reel of like
too.
SpongeBob just taking a digger over some like motorized kid car.
That's a good one. Tom, you got no rep?
I was gonna no rep ends up getting old. Just as I was at the bachelor party
prime,
this past
man.
weekend. I was, we're leaving the bachelor party, and one of my friends goes, well, I guess that's it. And I kind of realized that like that's gonna be the last bachelor party for my core group of friends.
Oh,
wow.
So like
that's
from
a
growing
milestone.
up. And then one of my friends promptly chimed in, well, what if about a second wedding?
I was like, you can't rule that out in these days and
I
age.
was like, why would you wish that on any of us? But yeah.
Interesting.
No,
Well,
but yeah,
wow.
so that had me in my feels, and I was like,
I'll do it. Yeah.
Missed that.
It's like that time you think about, there was a time in your life where you and your friends went outside to play for the last time and no one knew it. Right?
It was that meme
Oh my
exactly.
God, I just got chills.
Yeah, right?
Oh my God, Shawn,
I know.
never say that again.
Yeah.
That's so
it's true.
sad.
It happens to everybody.
See?
You know?
See?
Okay. The PRs. Let's end on a positive after that after I just shook Lauren to her foundations there.
Now I'm trying to think of when that was.
Right. You can't remember.
We did.
Yeah. Yeah. So you want my PR is? I'm going to PR Sony Pictures because they have made the genius decision to allow Neil Blomkamp, who directed District 9 and Elysium and was it Chappie, to remake Starship Troopers the way it's supposed to be made, which is true to the source material. And if you've ever seen that movie from the 90s, that is just a shadow of what the book is. And it's more of a satire than it is what the book is really about. It's one of my favorite books ever. And I'm so stoked that Neil Blomkamp's going to do it. So I read that. I was like, yes, finally someone's going to do this thing right. So good job, Sony Pictures. Well done. All right. Who's next?
I got 2 PRs. I'm going to PR spring training because it was a blast. And just, if you ever just want to go catch some casual baseball, there's so many games going on in the area in Phoenix. It was awesome. I'm going to PR my brother.
Yeah. Nick.
For holding on to family relics, I'll say this, because my brother lives in that area, and for the bachelor party, I had it set up in the house for just downtime in between. every day in high school growing up, we went back to my parents' house because we were the house closest to school, and we played N64 Super Smash Brothers
Nice.
during our free period in lunch while we were eating lunch. And so my brother goes, well, do you want me to bring the 64 from home over to the house? And I was like, wait, you still have it? He saved it and all the original games and all of our original controllers.
It's fantastic.
So when my buddy got to walk in to the house, we had Super Smash Brothers and college basketball on the TV. And we just got to rip. And it was like literally like we hadn't missed a beat. Everybody immediately hits the free for all, picks our favorite characters, and we start rolling. And that little bit of nostalgia was just a little extra something for the weekend that I appreciated, that my brother, was like, hey, would you guys like this? And I very much appreciated it.
I'm trying to find that video. Okay, Lauren, you got a PR?
I don't think I have a PR, but now I feel negative. So.
Oh, I'm sorry, because I ruined your. Oh, here it is.
Yeah, because now all I can think of is your no.
Can you guys hear this? Oh wait.
No.
All right, hang on. Did I mess up my audio again? Hang on.
You should PR me, Lauren, because I beat you in 2 out of the 3 open.
Oh, yeah. What the frick? Come on, Tommy. There needed to be a handicap for that row. Come on. That's 100 calories in a row.
I'm surprised that they didn't change that.
Same for ladies. What the heck?
Jeez.
I don't know.
I think time to mess around with this.
I think women are just as capable of doing 50 calories as men are.
That is true.
Yeah.
Just not this one.
All right. Anyway, I wanted to show that video.
And like the wall walks and the barbell cycling, I suppose it evens out based on our height.
Okay. Lauren, where you're going someplace this weekend? What are you in an event this weekend?
Yes, I am going to Holt, Florida.
Ooh.
It's east of Pensacola.
Nice.
For tactical games.
Redneck Riviera right there. Fantastic.
Yep.
All right.
And Concept 2, Greg Hammond.
Yeah.
He will be there, and him and I have a little competition going on that we pick one of the stages, which is one of the workouts over the weekend, and we will go head to head.
Nice.
So
that's awesome.
Represent.
Great guy.
All right.
Yep.
Well, good luck with that. We'll be back next week. A lot going on as maybe there'll be more information on a sale. And God, we're going to be like a week out, I guess, or a week and a half out of a semifinal.
Ooh, yeah. Also, PR to March Madness that time of year.
Oh God, that's the best. It's
your bracket.
I don't even follow college basketball, but I love the freaking bracket.
So do I.
I should have preemptively no-repped my bracket because by
broken immediately.
Thursday at 3 p.m. Eastern, I'll be busted.
Ruined. Why do I even do this anymore? Just should have the dog pick the teams. Yeah. All right, that's going to do it for us, everybody. Thanks so much for listening. Thanks for watching. For Lauren Khalil and Tommy Marquez, I'm Shawn Woodland. Take care of each other. Be better. We'll talk to you next time, and good luck with your NCAA brackets.
Like a kiss at the start of a first date. If it's good, I don't want to wait. When the feeling's right, I'm taking everything.